Hi everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, and that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Quarry Season 1, Episode 2. It's called Figure 4. Full spoilers for the episode as always, and we're going to get straight into it. Now, I was pleasantly impressed with the first episode,
Yeah, you were.
and I think that continued here with Episode 2, because we'll get to the big scenes at the end when we get there. But right from the get go, once again, the show opens with a very sort of intriguing and a very good way to draw us in. You know, it's a very calm but full of tension, like filled opening prologue where Max listening to tapes that his wife has sent him while he's in Vietnam, and he's just listening to all these messages of her saying how much she loves him and how much she wishes he was home, as he's sitting there getting drunk because she cheated on him, and she's up in bed.
Yeah, it's juxtaposed with
Yeah,
her phoning the other guy,
yeah,
or attempting to phone the other guy.
and not to jump too far ahead, but it's mirrored quite well as well. Um,
Yeah, it is.
with later on in the episode. So at the end of the episode specifically, because he's having sex with some other woman that he meets during the episode, and we all have that same idea of the recording playing over it. It's a really nice bookend to the episode, but so that stuff was really good, and it's actually quite surprising that they actually spend very little screen time together in this episode.
Yeah, it's not much at all, is there?
No, because after this opening, the only time they actually see each other again, really, is when she comes home and she sees the aftermath of Mac, like, well, this beating up the mattress from the bed.
Yeah,
Which you
and
get
just
what?
destroying stuff.
Yeah, you get why he did that though, because he lies
Yeah,
down in his bed. He comes home after he's went to like check a few things. He's went to see his mother-in-law, which was a great scene by the way. Like the awkwardness in that scene is he's sitting in that chair, and she goes to the other room to phone his dad. You get,
yeah.
like, as much as he is imposing, as much as he's barged in and he's like ridiculously drunk in like the middle of the day, you don't blame him for getting angry and walking out after that.
Yeah. I think my favorite bit was when she's trying to get rid of him beforehand.
Mm.
She's like, "Look, I got some housework to do," and he goes, "I thought you had a maid." And she goes, "It's a figure of speech."
Yeah, she's not a pleasant woman. At least from the glimpses we've seen of her now.
Yeah,
Um, but so the first half of the episode is mainly dealing with everything that went down at the end of the last episode, and that is Mac still trying to deal with the fact that he owes the broker $3,000, or sorry, $30,000.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
really underestimated that there.
yeah. I don't know, inflation and all that. 3,000 might have been a lot more in the 70s, but no,
I mean,
30,000.
it almost definitely was a lot more,
It was.
but not 10 times.
I wonder how much was 30,000 like in $70 worth now. Do you think? I mean, I could probably just quickly Google this,
I'd,
but
I'd guess about 50. I want to check.
you
It's,
can check that. I'll swing us on to some other points. So Matt goes to visit Ruth, who's Arthur's widow, because he's still trying to like find out if the money's still lying around somewhere so he can get out of this situation. Interestingly, the name of this episode is Figure Four, and Figure Four is actually the name of the wrestling move that the wrestler who wins the match, because later on in the episode he goes to meet the broker, and the broker set up this public meeting in the crowd at a wrestling match, and the match that goes on in the ring, the wrestler who wins the match wins with a figure four, and the figure four is a leg lock, and the whole idea is once you're in it, you're locked into it. So I would speculate the whole meaning behind that is that he's now locked into this deal
yeah,
with the broker, which is a cool thing. You probably wouldn't have got that because you don't know.
I'll be honest, I didn't get that because, like you said, I don't follow wrestling in the slightest. Never have.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's there if if you know that stuff, that metaphor is there for you. Well, it's not quite a metaphor, but
A little bit of symbolism.
yeah, symbolism. That's a better
It's,
word
it's
for it.
it's cool. It's nice. It's nice to have that explained to me.
So so that's the first half. Now, before we get to the Mac stuff and the Joni stuff, when they're off on their own, there is one intriguing character who we don't know, who might be working for the broker. We're not entirely sure. he goes to where Ruth works at her diner, and you know right away he's going to be a character. Like he's got a plot that's coming because of the way that it focuses on him and the way he talks to her, and he's nice to her and it seems pleasant, but you can tell there's like an underlying like motivation going on here. And then he breaks into her house and he's clearly looking for the money.
Yeah.
So whether it's the broker who sent someone to try and retrieve it, or whether it's
someone else who knows about it.
Yeah, an outside party.
Perhaps someone for Buddy. Because he knows about the money. Sure, he works for the broker, but he doesn't seem as committed to the broker. He still gives Mac advice in general.
Yeah. He seems like he's his own free spirit.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually, you bringing up Buddy, is his scene... I'm growing to really like him as a character. I really liked his scene with the guy that he's going to buy guns from, and he's playing pinball, and he's negotiating with the guy, and he's like, oh, I need 10 of this, 3 of that, whatever.
Yeah.
And he says... And the guy says to him, oh, that'll be 3,800. And he's like, nah, it feels like 3,300. And they have this whole little thing. It gets a little bit tense for a minute, and it calms down, and then the guy's like, oh, I've got a present for you, and he shows him this gun with a pink handle. And he says, oh, I thought you'd like that, because you're, and, like, the awkwardness and just the contempt in his face as he looks back at him. It's great acting, first of all. And I complimented the direction a lot last episode, and I'm going to compliment it again here, because I thought there was a lot of great moments. Again, going back to that opening with Mac listening to the recordings, just the way the camera would sit from afar and, like, take it in, let you soak it in.
It's bold camera work, isn't it?
It feels like a movie. It feels like they're going at it with the style of, right, let's make this feel like it's, a proper directed thing and not just your standard typical TV camera work, with TV editing, So it's really, really great in that sense. But yeah, so yeah, we've got this mysterious character who doesn't find anything. He leaves the house and nothing else comes of it in this episode, but I'm assuming that'll be picked up.
Yeah.
Later. So we'll go to Joni first. Joni, who, first of all, before she even finds out anything, there's a great little moment where there's a paper boy who finds the body of her lover crushed under the car. And there's a great moment where her and her workmate are going to pick him up, and the workmate even says to her, oh, you should have hooked up with him before Mac got home.
Yeah.
So it's a double meaning for us because we know that she actually did. But they get there and the police is all swarming, and it's worth mentioning as well, we've actually already met the detective by this point. There was a scene with the detective when we introduced to him. He's looking into the murder from the first episode that Mac was involved in. The police don't know he was there, but this is where Arthur died and the guy with the one leg and all that. And we get the sense that he's a bit more committed and takes his job a little bit more seriously. Whereas I'll refer to him as the fat guy, the fat cop, seems a bit more like he just wants to get through the day.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but last week did you not say straight up, we'll be seeing a detective this week?
I did, yes. I predicted we'd probably see that.
I'll give you that one.
But that just made sense to me, and it makes sense here. We don't get a whole lot of them, but we do get this. We do get a quick sense of the character.
Yeah.
But Joni, so she pulls up and she sees the detectives and she sees all the commotion around, and she gets her friend to drive her away. She feels all uncomfortable. She gets a sense that something's wrong, and when she
doesn't want to be asked questions, so she has to admit that they were closer than people think.
And the next time we see her, she's at work and they're having like a prayer or like a speech. They're having like a little, memory thing for him because she worked with him. That's where she knew him from.
Yeah.
They worked side by side at work, and so that's how she definitely knows he's dead. Like, she's obviously heard at work, right? He's died. It appears to be an accident, as if the car's fallen on him.
Yeah.
But and it's later in the day where the cops are in, and she's asked all these questions, and they're asking, so you carpooled with them? That seems out your way, so on. And we see her break into his desk when they're not looking to retrieve a tape, which we later find out is an audio recording of them having sex.
Weird place to keep it as well, in your desk at work.
It is. It's a little bit weird, but sure.
I don't know how often you're going to listen to it at work. If you are, well, maybe you should be doing some goddamn work.
I also think it's really funny that in the 70s people might have recorded audio of them having sex because they couldn't just make sex tapes.
Yeah,
At least not
it's
as easily.
amusing.
At least not as easily as you could do it now.
Yeah.
So that's amusing. But yeah, so that's kind of her part of the episode. Mac is extremely interesting because obviously he has a lot of stuff early on where he's driving around, he's seen different people, he's drunk, but he's called in to help Buddy. Him and Buddy have like a good sort of conversation early on, and he goes to help him because Buddy's making this gun deal that we've already seen him set up with the other guy, and he wants Mac to be there as backup, and he brings the money with him, and they go to this meet, and the other guys aren't very happy that he's brought Mac, and you can see Mac looking around, and I'm like, he knows something's up because
He's eyeing the situation, yeah.
because he's a trained soldier. He's learned to go into like places where people might be hiding. Where's a good ambush, spot and things like that. He can see it. I could see him looking around and with that sort of stuff in mind.
He's been trained to be paranoid.
Yeah, and the guy who's selling the guns like turns around and says, "Yeah, give us your guns." They all start pointing guns at them. And people come out from up the top, and there's people all around pointing guns at them, and they're basically going to rip them off because because Buddy wanted to pay him less than he wanted,
Yeah.
and that's that. And the guy acts really, really smug about it. He gets homophobic. He looks really smug, and Buddy, without missing a beat, in an extremely violent wide shot, just like slits his throat or stabs him in the throat. It's hard to tell exactly what the
Because it is a wide shot, it is a bit further back, yeah.
It's hard to tell exactly how the penetration works, as it were.
Either way, you see plenty of blood.
You see plenty of blood, and it feels very visceral because it is so quick.
Yeah.
And of course, as soon as that happens, a shootout starts. And this is where I got really impressed, is because it feels like they put a lot of money into this show. Because not only is it constantly set in the 70s, so they're constantly doing period piece work, like, there's a fantastic car chase.
Really is.
That ends this whole sequence. We see a lot of shooting, and the shooting's really great and all that, but, one guy gets in a car and drives away, and Mac runs out to their car and goes after him, and the camera stays inside the car behind Mac's head. And we stay there for a good minute of this chase, as he's like driving around and trying to chase after this guy, and we see the other car like crash while we're still behind here. It's really good stunt work. It's all in camera. It's really impressive. It's really visceral as well. Like, you really feel the whole thing. And I'm like, man, I'm getting really impressed by this show. This is really good stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say it's done anything unpredictable yet. Like, it's not like the most surprising show in the world, but
what it's doing very well.
Yeah, it's the directing, the acting, all of it, all of this stuff is getting done top notch. And that was definitely the most impressive part of the episode, was that whole shootout.
That whole sequence, yeah.
That was a fantastic section of the show. I wasn't expecting it to come into this and go, that was better than last week, but actually, I think this was a better episode than last week.
Yeah, it probably was. I think it was a bit more consistent.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit tighter because obviously they didn't have to set things up.
Yeah.
Kind of just got into it. Yeah, no, it was a good episode. Very good.
Hit the ground running. And then that's where he's, after the words, we see a meeting with the broker. And the broker seems very fair, actually. You expect him to try to screw him over every chance he gets, but he's like, no, you know what? Because Buddy says, well, you killed them all, so can I get my money back? And he's like, consider it hazard pay. Because Buddy did get shot in the leg, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
He took a hit. And the broker's like, you know what, fair enough. And he looks at Mac and goes, and you know what, you can have 1,000 knocked off your debt as well. So that's only 25 you owe now, because he killed, the guy last episode.
Yeah, that counts for the 4.
That counts for 4. He gets 4 off per kill. And, I'm like, you know what, he's quite a reasonable guy. You expect him to be, really, vindictive and screwing them over, but he's this is what we said. That's you knocked off that.
It is as fair as you can be when you are essentially locking or blackmailing him into killing for you.
Aye, I agree, completely agree. So yeah, then he goes back to meet that woman that he met at the bar, who at the strip bar, because he was looking for the guy with one leg. He was hoping to track down him and complete that job. and he met the bartender, not one of the strippers, the bartender, who he sort of hit it off with. I must admit, I really wish they picked an actress who didn't look so similar to his wife.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't entirely sure at first when they started having sex at the end if that was his wife or not.
I'll be honest, it took me a good 10 seconds, 15 seconds to realise it wasn't his wife.
Now maybe that's the point. Maybe the whole point is that he's picked someone who looks like his wife. In which case, fair enough. I get that.
It does make sense.
It does make sense. But it did take me like a second to realise exactly what was going on. But no, that's the episode.
Oh, yeah. Before we wrap it up, I have an inflation calculator here. What year do you know roughly is this set in?
72.
72. Okay. So $30,000 equals 172,645,000 in today money.
It's a lot more than 50.
It is a lot more than 50. I vastly underestimated that.
I almost want to just like make a few grand and then go back in time to the 70s and just feel rich.
Be amazing, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, 30 grand, I mean, sure, but it's still a reasonable amount of money, don't get me wrong. You still think 30 grand, yeah, that's a hefty chunk. But the reality is very different.
Actually, Joe was an interesting scene that I thought was quite good in this episode in terms of sort of like us watching something of a different time, a different era. When Ruth's talking to her friend or her sister, I'm not sure if it's a friend or sister.
Oh, is this about the schools?
About the schools, yeah, and they're talking about how, starting in January, the black kids will go to the same school as the white kids, and I'm like, huh. But now, obviously, that had to have happened at some point. But the reason what I thought was really interesting about it is they weren't actually convinced it was a good thing.
Yeah, they play it very interesting. They think, oh, it might actually affect them in a bad way.
Yeah, I thought that was a really... Just it was a point of view that I'd never seen. Like, I always just assumed, once that separation ended, that was a good thing. That was a great thing. But...
It makes sense that no decision will benefit everyone, or even if it does, they won't see it as that.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was an interesting slice of life moment from a different time that I would never have thought of before. So
yeah, same. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I'm learning a little bit about American history as I watch this as well.
Yeah, we don't know too much.
We don't, no. But no, it's a good show. This is such a pleasant surprise because it came out of nowhere.
It did. It wasn't even on some of our checklists.
It wasn't. And it's funny, during that car chase, I was like halfway through it, I was just thinking, I didn't know this existed 8 days ago.
Yeah, we found out this existed, the night before it aired?
I think so, something like that.
And it's surprising because given obviously we do this, we're quite prepared, and we've had most of these shows that we're doing scheduled out for months.
Yeah, we've had it mapped out so we know how much we've got week to week, but this just came out of nowhere, and I'm glad we came across it because it ended up being quite good. And remember, it's only an 8-episode season, so we have 6 left.
Yeah, so it's a quarter through.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tight season. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. It helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz. And of course, there's a bunch of new shows hitting over the next month and a half. Tune back in for some of those. But otherwise, guys, thanks very much for watching. We will see you next time.